Section 1 of Wheels, the Fifth Cycle. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Eva Davis, Nemo, Newgatenovelist, and Algy Pug. Cornucopia by Osbert Sitwell. To Edith. Now music fills the night with moving shades. Its velvet darkness, veined like a grape, obscures and falls round many a subtle shape. Figures that steal through cool, tall colonnades, vast, Minotaurian corridors of sleep. Rhythmic they pass us, splashed by red cascades of wine, fierce flashing fountains, whose proud waves shimmer awhile, plunge foaming over steep age-polished rocks into the dim, cold caves of starlit dusk below, then merge with night, softly, as children sinking into sleep. But now more figures sway into our sight, strong and bare-shouldered, pressed and laden down, stagger across the terraces. They bear great cornucopia of summer fruit and heavy roses, scented with the noon, piled up with fruit and blossoms, all full-blown, crimson or golden as the harvest moon, piled up and overflowing in a flood of riches. Brilliant plumaged birds that sing as the faint playing on a far sweet lute, warble their tales of conquest and of love. Perch on each shoulder, sweep each rainbow wing like lightning through the breathless dark above. Heaped up in vases, gems shine hard and bright. Sudden, they flare out, gleaming red like blood. For now the darkness turns to swelling light. Great torches gild each shadow, tear the sky, as drums tear through the silence of the night, breaking its crystal quiet, making us cry or catch our sobbing breath in sudden fear. A shadow stumbles, and the jewels shower onto the pavers with a sharp, sweet sound. They mingle with the fountain drops that flower up in a scarlet bloom above the ground, a beauteous changing blossom. Then they rain onto the broad, mysterious terraces, where sea gods rise to watch in cold disdain before those vast vermilion palaces. Watch where the slumbering coral gods of noon, drunk with a sudden golden light and flare of flaming torches, try to pluck and tear that wan enchanted lotus flower, the moon, down from its calm still waters. Thus they fall, like flowing plumes, the fountains of our festival. Slowly the torches die. They echo long, these last notes of a bacchanalian song, of drifting, drowsy beauty, born of sleep, vast as the sea, as changing and as deep. And thanksgiving for sheltering summer skies still far away, a fervent red light glows. Small winds brush past against our lips and eyes, caress them like a laughing summer rose, and rainbow moths flit by in circling flight. A harp sobs out its crystal syrupings, faintly it sounds as the poor petal wings fragile yet radiant of a butterfly, beating against the barriers of night. Then from the ocean came the siren song, heavy with perfume, yet faint as a sigh, kissing our minds and changing right from wrong. chaining our limbs, making our bodies seem inert and spellbound, dead as in a dream. End of section. Section 2 of Wheels, the Fifth Cycle. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Church Parade by Osbert Sitwell. The flattened sea is harsh and blue, lies stiff beneath, one tone, one hue, while concertina waves unfold the painted, shimmering sands of gold. Each bird that whirls and wheels on high must strangle, stifle in its cry, for nothing that's of nature born should seem so on the Sabbath morn. The terrace glitters hard and white, bedaubed and flecked with points of light that flicker at the passers-by, reproachful as a curate's eye. And china flowers in steel-bound beds flare out in blues and flaming reds. Each blossom, rich and opulent, stands like a soldier, and its scent is turned to camphor in the air. No breath of wind would ever dare to make the tree's plump branches sway, whose thick green leaves hang down to pray. The stiff, tall churches vomit out their rustling masses of devout, tall churches whose stained Gothic night refuses to receive the light. Watch how the stately walk along toward the terrace, join the throng that paces carefully up and down above a cut-out cardboard town. With prayer book rigid in each hand, they look below at sea and sand. The round contentment in their eyes betrays their favorite fond surmise, that all successful at a trade shall tread an eternal church parade, and every soul that's sleek and fat shall gain a heavenly top hat. From out the church's Gothic night, past beds of blossoms china bright, beneath the green tree's porous shade, we watch the seaside church parade. End of section. Section 3 of Wheels, the Fifth Cycle. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Sunday Afternoon by Osbert Sitwell. The gilt-fringed earth has sadly spun a sector of its lucent arc about the disillusioned sun of autumn. The bright, angry spark of heaven in each upturned eye denotes religious ecstasy. We, too, have spun our Sunday round of church and beef, and after sleep in houses where obtrudes no sound but breathing, regular and deep, till Sabbath sentiment, well fed, demands a visit to the dead. For autumn leaves sad thoughts beget, as from life's tree they clatter down, and death has caught some inner net, even on Sunday in this town. Though money and food and sleep are sweet, the dead leaves rattle down the street. Fat bodies, silk enmeshed, inflate their way along. If death comes soon, they'll leave this food-sweet earth to float heavenward like some huge balloon. Religion dims each vacant eye as we approach the cemetery. Proudly we walk, with care we bend to lead our children by the hand. Here, where all, rich and poor, must end, this portal to a better land, to which, if in good business, all have hereditary access, where to afford the saints relief from prayer and from religious questions, round after round of deathless beef flatters celestial digestions. Where, in white robe with golden crown, we watch our enemies sent down to other spheres, while we lean out, divinest pity in our eyes, and wonder why these sinners flout our kindly pitying surprise. Why look so angry when we play on gold harps as they go away? A hymn tune, dear, familiar? But now we stand within the space where marble females drape a tear above a whiskered marble face. Isn't it pretty? Even now rich and exotic blossoms grow about each granite monument of worthy men, all fully dressed, and, for some slight emolument, a weeping willow guards our rest. Look! Over there a broken column is watched by one geranium, whose scorching scarlet tones uphold damnation and eternal fire to those who will not reckon gold, who are not worthy of their hire. For marble tombs are prized above such brittle things as thoughts or love. The crystal web of dusk now clings from evergreen to tropic tree, tossed by the wind that subtly brings a mingled scent of mold and tea, that causes silence to be rent by one scream, childish but intent. For children will not realize that they should rest without a sound, with folded hands and downcast eye here in the saint's recruiting ground. And so, in sorrow, we turn back to hasten on our high tea track. But after, in the night, we dream of heaven as a marbled bank, in which, in our continual stream, we give our gold for heavenly rank, where each saint, standing like a sentry, explains a mystic double entry. The director of the bank is God, stares our foes coldly in the face, but gives us quite a friendly nod, and beckons us to share his place. End of section. Section 4 of Wheels, the Fifth Cycle. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. De Luxe, 2 poems by Osbert Sitwell. 1. Hymn. Above from plaster mountains, wine-shadowed by the sea, spurt white wool clouds, as fountains whirl from a rockery. These clouds were surely given to keep the hills from harm, for when a cloud is riven, the fatted rain falls warm. Through porous leaves the sun drops, each dripping stalactite of green. The chiseled tree-tops seem cut from malachite. Stiff leaves with ragged edges, each one a wooden sword, are carved to prickly hedges, on which, with one accord, their clockwork songs of calf-love, stout birds stop to recite, from cages which the sun wove, of shade and latticed light. Each brittle booth and joy-store shines brightly. Below these, the ocean at a toy-shore yaps like a Pekingese. 2. Nursery Rhyme. The dusky king of Malabar is chief of eastern potentates, yet he wears no clothes except the jewels that decency dictates. 1,000 Malabaric wives roam beneath green tufted palms, revel in the vileness that Bishop Heber psalms. From honeycombs of light and shade they stop to watch black bodies dart into the sea to search for pearls by means of diabolic art. Magicians keep the sharks away, mutter, utter each dark spell, so that if a thief should steal, one more black would go to hell. But Mrs. Freudenthal infers, from brioche dreams to mild surprise, awakes, The music throbs and purrs. The cellist, with albino eyes, rivets attention, is, in fact, the very climax. Pink eyes flash, whenever nervous and pain-racked, he hears the drums and cymbals clash. Mrs. Freudenthal daydreams, ice spoon halfway to her nose, till the girl in ochre screams, hits out at the girl in rose. This is not at all the way to act in large and smart hotels. Angrily the couple sway, eagerly the riot swells. Girls who cannot act with grace should learn behavior, stay at home. A convent is the proper place. Why not join the Church of Rome? A waiter nearly drops the tray, 20 teacups in one hand. Now the band joins in the fray, fighting for the promised land. Mrs. Freudenthal resents the scene and slowly rustles out, but the orchestra relents, waking from its fever bout. End of section. Section 5 of Wheels, the Fifth Cycle. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. At the House of Mrs. Kinfoot by Osbert Sitwell. At the house of Mrs. Kinfoot are collected men and women of all ages. They are supposed to sing, paint, or to play the piano. In the drawing room the fireplace is set with green tiles of an acanthus pattern. The black curls of Mrs. Kinfoot are symmetrical, descended, it is said, from the kings of Ethiopia. But the British bourgeoisie has triumphed. Mr. Kinfoot is bald and talks in front of the fireplace, with his head on one side and his right hand in his pocket. The joy of catching tame elephants, and finding them to be white ones, still gleams from the jungle eyes of Mrs. Kinfoot. But her mind is no jungle of Ethiopia, but a sound British meadow. Listen then to the gospel of Mrs. Kinfoot. The world was made for the British bourgeoisie. They are its Swiss family Robinson. The world is not what it was. We cannot understand all this unrest. Adam and Eve were born to evening dress in the southern confines of Belgravia. Eve was very artistic and all that, and felt the fall quite dreadfully. Cain was such a man of the world, and belonged to every club in London. His father simply adored him, but had never really liked Abel, who was rather a milksop. Nothing exists which the British bourgeoisie does not understand. Therefore, there is no death, and of course, no life. The British bourgeoisie is not born and does not die, but, if it is ill, it has a frightened look in its eyes. The war was splendid, wasn't it? Oh, yes, splendid, splendid. Mrs. Kinfoot is a dear, and so artistic. End of section. Section 6 of Wheels, the Fifth Cycle. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Malgre Louis by Osbert Sitwell. The voices weave a web of futile sound. A fan is dropped by Lady Carabas, restored to her, but Mrs. Kinfoot frowned, guarding the door as Cerberus his pass. But suddenly great waves of sound obtrude upon the pleasant party in this room, while we enjoy the music's interlude. Outside there swells the trumpet call of doom. Mosaic tombs or unmarked graves, asunder they all are rent. King Dodan from the dead arises, while the quivering heavens thunder. He smooths his robe and calmly shakes his head, free of the age's dust. But now the voices of those condemned for judgment will not tarry, shrill out in woe, but one alone rejoices, for Mrs. Kinfoot scents another quarry. The army of the dead are on the march to meet their Maker on his ivory throne. He sits beneath the rainbow's radiant arch, dispensing judgment. Oh, atone, atone. But Mrs. Kinfoot saw a sailor sinner, with one arm, leave St. Paul's and walk away, and Mrs. Kinfoot longed to give a dinner.
To meet the Judge upon the Judgment Day.
Above God's head a dozen suns kept guard, like sentinels. Her erring feet were led up to a crowded hill, where God's regard was fixed upon her, and he gravely said,
Anne Kinfoot, worthy mother and good wife, your weakness and your faults are all forgiven. Go you, my child, to everlasting life, and take your husband also up to heaven.
But she could see the counsellors and kings, and brilliant bearers of a famous name, tangled with snakes and horrid crawling things, sent down to torture and eternal flame. Then Mrs. Kinfoot lied in agony.
O Lord, I am as others of my class and station,
she cried.
Oh, have me bound and burnt and gored, oh, send me down to suffer my damnation. I swear I beat my children.
Oh, despondent she was.
I am a sinner. I will tell how I escaped a ducal correspondent last year. My God, I must insist on hell.
But the great judge was not deceived. He knew the worthy virtue of the Kinfoot line. Yet, as she went to heaven, constant, true, to principle, she murmured,
Will you dine to meat?
But dragged away she dwells on high, and notes, but rather disapproves, the eccentricity of saints and early Christians who try to lessen the burden of her domesticity. She has to play upon a golden harp, join in the chorus of the heavenly choir. Her answers to the saints are sometimes sharp. She longs to singe her wings and share the fire. Night never comes, so when she tries to flee to that perpetual party down below, the angels catch her, shouting out with glee,
Dear Mrs. Kinfoot, you are good, we know.
End of section. Section 7 of Wheels, the Fifth Cycle. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. From the Valley of the Giants by Osbert Sitwell. We climbed beneath the tropic trees. Like swords their leaves unfold, their limbs bear swelling gourds like tumors, bearing blossoms that transcribe the wicked flicker of the insect tribe, who, drunk with heavy honey as with gore, crawl on the fleshy petals, till the roar of some huge creature that proud and alone prowls in the forest rouses them to drone. Within the venomed mesh of this rank mane flash sequined birds that tear the air in twain. And flecked with fierce green light, the hot ground seethes with buzzing furious sound, as if it breathes in fever. Still we climb the cone-shaped hill, till suddenly the living world is still. The blood-red curtain of the sun is torn aside, and through it there is faintly born the slumbering night, until there fell around a silence that meant more than any sound. Then, like a waterfall, did darkness come with splashing of cool winds that seemed like foam, and in the dim pavilions above, the crooning turtle, who acclaims his love is rocked as on a wave, and looks below in wonder. Do the rippling waters flow there with sweet movement? Will he see there soon, clearly reflected, the refulgent moon? Now those more arrogant birds that peck the fruit, gilded by sunlight, are ashamed and mute, just as their jeweled plumes that caught the stark, crude daylight colors now fade into dark. While the dear humble dove bears on its wings the sheen that moonlight to deep water brings, and those proud flowers, like open wounds and spears, are hid by darkness with its welling tears. The dew has washed them, and we only see the pallid blossoms that again set free nocturnal sweetness, until now closed up within the ivory prison of each cup. For here each evening when dusk falls, the flowers are rung by gentle winds as bells in towers, till in each chalice, white and open wide, the dew-reflected stars tremble and hide. For night, more cruel than the cruel day, hides and dissembles, makes the moonbeam play in velvet soothing softness, on that strife of trees and living things that men call life. End of section. Section 8 of Wheels, the Fifth Cycle. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Mrs. Freudenthal Consults the Witch of Endor by Osbert Sitwell. A nose, however aquiline, escapes detection in a throng, so she hopes, but sense of sin made her shrink and steal along streets glazed by mocking summer heat, dissemblance of a cool canal, where iridescent insects beat their wings upon the liquid wall, where radiant insects carrion fed buzz and flutter busily, smile or frown or nod the head, expressing some familiar lie. Enter the house, ascend the stair, consult the scintillating ball. Beatrice Freudenthal, beware! Eve felt like you before the fall. Within the shining mystic globe lies Lucket Bridge, or Martyr's Crown. A modern prophetess will probe the future for 1 guinea down. For that amount the future sword from crystal scabbard she will drag. She can unpack the future's hoard as we unpack a Gladstone bag. Without the agency of man, solely by fasting and by prayer, the wizards of old Genghis Khan could move a wine cup through the air until it reached him, and he drank fermented juice of rye or grape. The cup flew back, his courtiers shrank away, astonished and agape. Before the llama turns to grapple with state affairs, he learns to spin, despite Sir Isaac Newton's apple, in mid-air 60 times, to win amusement mixed with approbation from skeptical ambassadors, for any kind of levitation increases prestige with the powers. Such things were practiced, did not tend to promote war or anarchy, yet now such things would even end a constitutional monarchy. Magic for a holy race is surely wrong. How strictly hidden the future in its crystal case lies oh so near, and yet forbidden. Though Gentile kings upon their thrones may weave a spell or dance like Titch, yet ponder on the bleaching bones of Saul, who sought the Endor witch. End of section.
Section 9 of Wheels, the Fifth Cycle. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Theatre of Varieties by Aldous Huxley. Circle on circle the hanging gardens descend, slope from the upper darkness, each flower face open, turned to the light and laughter and life, trembling heat, quicken and awake the air. Flutes and crying of strings assail the sense, music, the revelation and marvellous lie. What is not, truth and falsehood swim and mingle together. On the bright trestles, tumblers, tamers of beasts, dancers and clowns affirm their fury of life, and in 1,000 minds beget 1,000 hallucinations, dreams of beauty, nightmares. The world-renowned Van Hogen Mogen in the master mystery of modern times. He talks, more powerfully than music, his quick words hammer on the minds of men. Observe this hat, ladies and gentlemen, empty, observe, empty as the universe, before the head for which this hat is made was or could think. Empty, observe, observe. The rabbit kicks. A bunch of paper flowers blossoms in the limelight. Paper tape unrolls, endless, a clue. Ladies and gentlemen, sharp, sharp on malleable minds his words hammer. The little Indian boy enters the basket. Bright, an Ethiop's sword transfixes it, and bleeding is withdrawn. Horror, like a magnet, draws the watching crowds toward the scene of massacre. The walls bend forward to the revealing light, and the pale faces are 1,000 gargoyles, thrust out, spouting the ichor of their souls. Ladies and gentlemen, the great Van Hogen Mogen smiles, and is kind. A puddle of dark blood creeps slowly out. The irremediable has ceased to be. Empty of all but blood, the basket gapes. Arise! He calls, and blows his horn. Arise! Bird-like from the highest gallery the little Indian answers. Shout upon shout the hanging gardens reverberate. Happy because the irremediable is healed, happy because they have seen the impossible, because they are freed from the dull daily law. They shout, they shout. And great Van Hogen Mogen modestly bows, graciously smiles. The band confirms the lie with loud triumphant blasts. The curtain falls. How quickly the walls recede, and the stretched gargoyles re-become women and men, who fill the warm thick air with rumour of their loves and discontents. Not suffering even great Hogen Mogen, begetter of rabbits out of empty hats, scorner of nature, raiser from the dead, to invade the sanctities of private life. The lamps once more expire, and the red curtain glows like a hearth behind the kindled ramp. The hearth dissolves. God's eyes of limelight grope about the darkness, cross-squinting, squinting apart with splayed regard. Focus at last unanimously a pearly vision with an open mouth, source of a sugared fountain. See, as she sings, the eyes of God change colour, voluptuously incarnadined with red, then green for horror, purple with condolence. Then, at a blink, go out, disquietingly. She sings, O revelation and marvellous lie, till Picardy blooms nothing but perfumed roses, with never a rotting corpse in all its earth. The 6 aerial sisters Polpatini dive from trapeze to far trapeze with all the clockwork certainty of stars. About his head Sclopsis, the juggler, keeps in unremitting planetary dance a little host of silver spheres, and ever quicklier throwing, builds up a solid arch of movement. If he should drop an atom, or if they lose hold too soon and fall! But they can never fail, for if they did, what breath of panic would shake the pale flower faces that in the hanging gardens tranquilly bloom? Professor Chubb's automaton performs upon the viols and virginals, plays chess, ombre and loo, mistigri, trick-track, pushpin, sings Lily Bolero in falsetto, answers all questions put to it, and with its rubber feet noiselessly dances the antique Heidegger. "Is it a man?" the terrible infant asks, and "No," they say whose business it is to say such infants no. And "No" again they shout when, after watching Dobbs and Debs step simultaneously through intricate dances, hammer the same tune with their rattling clogs in faultless unison, the infant, wondering, asks, "And are they machines?" Music, the revelation and marvellous lie, rebuilds in the minds of all a suave and curving kingdom of heaven. Under God's bright eyes an angel walks, and with one rolling glance blesses, sun-like, each flower in the hanging gardens. O heavenly smile, and God-illumined glances, hair of gold and marble brow, and silken comeliness of limb! "Divine!" they say, having no words by which to call a spade, divine Xenocrate. Beauty, being mysterious, is therefore God, and love, a pleasure indescribable, is God again, and awe, the dark abyss where words fall wingless and lampless, is also God. Xenocrate, divine Xenocrate. "Father," the terrible infant's voice is shrill, "why does a lady wear no skirts?" She wears no skirts. God's eyes have never been brighter, the face flowers open in her emanation. Xenocrate, sun-like Xenocrate. She is the suave and curving kingdom of heaven made manifest to the eyes. Xenocrate. Her belly is like a mound of wheat, her breasts are towers, her hair like a flock of goats. Her foot is feet with diamond toes, and she on legs of ruby goes. Xenocrate, divine Xenocrate. The face flowers rustle in the flagellant wind of her loud singing. A poet in the pit jots down in tears the words of her siren song. So every spirit as it is most pure, and hath in it the more of heavenly light, so it the rarer body doth procure to habit in, and is more fairly dight with cheerful grace and amiable sight. For of the soul the body form doth take, and soul is form, and doth the body make. Now, boys, together, all with me. For of the soul the body form doth take. Together, boys, together, and soul is form, and doth the body make. Xenocrate, alone, alone divine. God save the King. Music's last practical joke still sounding in their ears, bugling of glory, the folk stream out into the soft damp darkness of Saturday night in Camden Town. Already next week's bills are being posted. Urim and Thummim, crosstalk comedians, Ringpok, the Magian of Tibet, the two Bedelias, Ruby and Truby Dix, Sam Foy and troop of serio-comic cyclists. Infinite in resource, each week from now till doomsday, the theatre of Varieties offers something new. Twice nightly, every evening, from now till doomsday, its hanging gardens, bedded with pale flower faces, will echo with ever new delight, while on the shining trestles, tumblers, tamers of beasts, dancers and clowns will affirm, in strange new ways, their everlasting fury of life. End of section.
Section 10 of Wheels, the Fifth Cycle. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Hard of Hearing by Alan Porter. Once in April ways I heard the cuckoo call. Among more withering days, holms twitched and clicked with heat. I heard the bumping fall of yellow plums. My feet drew bickerings from the grass like thunder rain on roofs or clattered arms of brass. Horses' battering hoofs ring no louder now than once a distant stream. The grasshopper's old hussif-row dies to remembered dream. In bygone days I heard the swinging dewberry scratch to the flurried flight of a bird, nor found it hard to catch the plashy drop when a trout came bow-bent leaping out. I heard from pools and bogs the little barking frogs, clapping water-weeds, the hiss of sand-wasps' wings, wind-brattled campion seeds, were close familiar things. Now nature's music's half are fled, and half my heart is dead. End of section. Section 11 of Wheels, the Fifth Cycle. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Lovers by Alan Porter. Flat streams of light flow ribboning the road, more black along the black new reined-in air. Love-coupled shades feel comfortable flesh. The tree-tops lift their Atlantean load, and, though they mutter, let no pinpoint flare fall with a plum plop through the leafy mesh, across the gloom 2 faces leap, and I am dizzied. Their how more than moony power, brighter than lamplit gleaming, awes me mute. Are lovers fledged by flesh for this lark-high, pure, candid flight? Do bodily beauties flower to ripe a strange and spiritual fruit? End of section. Section 12 of Wheels, the Fifth Cycle. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Blind by Alan Porter. An old man tap, tap, tapping went a thin, beach-broken way. So many straight, unheedful trees before his footing lay, that turn or stumble where he would, he blundered full against a tree. He did not seem to care, but, oh, bitter, bitter it was to me. End of section.
Section 13 of Wheels, the Fifth Cycle. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Child's Song by Leah McTavish Cohen. My mother was a harlot, my father was a clerk. My mother wore scarlet, my father a coat dark. They met once only, parted at morn, but from that lone lie was I born. When she grew bigger, mother in dread pinched in her figure, bore me dead. They buried my body deep in a hole, and prayed to God he would save my soul. End of section.
Section 14 of Wheels, the Fifth Cycle. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Time by Geoffrey Cookson. From the French. Time's horny nail the flesh of beauty flays, and round dumb lips grown weary of sweet lays, graves deep the line to tell where laughter died. Blood curdles in the porphyry's veined pride. Day turns to ashes, heaven to marble cold. A trunk, all gnarled, the dryad's limbs enfold. The silvery voice in mocking echo calls. Thy flask an urn, a sepulchre thy halls. Thy weeping soul with sad winds swept along, of flesh and blood, of laughter and of song, of airy thought. What symbol shapes the close? A dove upon the wing, a ruined rose. End of section. Section 15 of Wheels, the Fifth Cycle. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Mist and Cloud by Geoffrey Cookson. All Hellas in that rift! The vapours part, and straightway I look through into a land that laughs beneath the blue, cloud-frontiered, rainbow-barred, Thessalian fastnesses of deer and pard, Pindus and Tempe, rhododendron-starred. Soon they begin to lift, slow partings first, loath arms linked tenderly round rock and clift, cold bosoms amorous leaned on armoured crags. Such long farewells, such trailing of white robes o'er black peat hags, silvered with springs and sprent with blue harebells, such lingering in dells, such shy returns, indrafts of valleys wet with drooping ferns, and then, auroral, radiantly swift, they mount in pride, and, as a gift, leave to the golden day the green hillside. Some shreds are caught among the topmost trees, like visible spirits of the silences. Succeeding slow with pauseful step, they glide across the glittering desert of the air. Handmaidens fair, they go to dip their robes in founts of dawn, or in pure alabaster pitchers bear the dewy wine from forest wells deep drawn. So morning drew my fancy, like the mist, to follow after, but in the sullen mountain top, unkissed, all Sinai thundered terrible reproof, and from such whoredoms held himself aloof, no friend of love or laughter. Above the gorge the trees were Titans, the black rocks a forge, and audibly almost the vapour hissed, as, unto skiey roof and rafter, when Jove's lame armourer wrought 'gainst old revolts, rolled the dull reek of tempering thunderbolts. End of section. Section 16 of Wheels, the Fifth Cycle. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Eden by Geoffrey Cookson. Light as the ascended breath of snow that climbs into the azure air, when Himalayan peaks are bare, and all their gloom-built gullies know the warmth of spring, and virginal as the white paps of Eve unwed, in Eden bower the blossoms were. Their pearly lustre, half opaque, pied with pink stain and purple strake, drank up the liquid light that fed their green and leafy coronal, and in their matrix the faint stir of life, that fallen Lucifer in likeness of a creeping snake longed for, no motion made to strew the ground beneath them, and the dew despoiled them not, nor butterfly their motionless tranquillity bowed, nor light-fingered airs that pass let fall one petal on the grass. So calm it was in Eden bower, so heavenly calm by bush and brake, of beauty that completes the flower they had not lost a single flake. But oh, how fugitive and brief the perfect hour of bud and leaf! Was it a breeze or a wild bird, or the maturer life within, that first their infant slumber stirred? Or Eve, when bending down her chin, she touched a petal with her breath? 5 petals eddied to the earth, and straightening out his monstrous girth, where coiled among the leaves he hid, earthwards the watchful serpent slid, and made partaker of his mirth the destined shadow men call sin, who told it to his brother, Death. End of section. Section 17 of Wheels, the Fifth Cycle. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Porphryo by Geoffrey Cookson. Music, like the wandering shower, whose variable voice is heard on lawny grass, in leafy bower, the slumberous pearl of silence stirred. The trumpet neighs with high fanfare, the viol deep and violin, the looped awnings lifted are, and lo, a world of light within, a world of light, a world of flame, that lives and dies to music's beat, and there upon the waft of fame flew Porphryo with winged feet. Hot on the scent the eager pack may wind the wild deer up the glen, but who shall tread the dancer's track that dances on the hearts of men? The feigned dreams of false desire their fetters round his footsteps wove, and from beneath, like flakes of fire, on crocus lawns in springtime clove. And silent men of secret mien fanned the white skin of Egypt's queen, laid on her couch of emerald lawn. And shyly came the silk-eared fawn, the fawning satyr whisked his tail, with frolic grin and wrinkled mask, old Sylvan hopped well drunk with ale, and Bacchus squelched his goatskin cask, and flower-like nymphs from cloudless calm of Cyprian Olympus high came down the slopes of pine and palm to see him dance and see him die. And he is but a brown-limbed slave, and she the horned queen of night. She draws him as the moon the wave, he spins her frantic satellite. Her lustful heart is full of pride, her eyes upon his body feast. She motions to her dangerous side Death's cupbearer, the mitred priest. The gilded poison is for thee that in the golden goblet swims. Thy frame an arch of agony, cold trembling in thy comely limbs. Die, Porphryo! To this long pause have come thy many wandered feet. The people thundered their applause, the emperor started to his feet, flung roses and a purse of gold. But death, your only realist, stole down the wings with whisper cold, and in my heart a serpent hissed. Better yet, and better yet, he will do it better yet. Heap roses, weathe him all the bays that toilers after fame can get. In the dark ending of his days, when none is nigh to blame or praise, he will do it better yet. End of section. Section 18 of Wheels, the fifth cycle. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The Crocodile Discourses by Geoffrey Cookson. I do not find it written in my slime that God is love, yet he is very good. For first he filed my teeth exceeding sharp, and shut them in a trap of triple steel, gave me my saurian ancestry, whereby I walk abroad unquestioned armiger, and wear unrusted my tough coat of mail. Also, to deck a brother deity, for I am more than priest, if less than God, he offers lotus buds, and lends me stars to float upon my pool. And when I swim on moonless nights, they tremble in the wash and furrow of my wave. Familiar as to a schoolboy ciphers on a slate, I meditate my deep astrology, reading the cycles and conjunctive hours that ripen for my maw the virgin's breasts, the young wife's womb. They have no time to scream. I trip so smoothly down the darkling stair and paddle in the deeps. My pool is called Silence, the deadener of unseemly noise that rends so woundily the clamorous air. I do not roar like loud and vulgar beasts, but on a soft bed lay them tenderly, striving to calm them, lest they tear the flesh. There the poor gape, that is their voiceless scream, no echo has but bubbles. Soft, so soft the seasoned flesh. The after-dinner sleep in reed brake or thorn thicket, sanctified with comfortable closing of the lids and beatific smile, of blessedness, and the peculiar care of Providence humbly acknowledged, sign, misunderstood, but not the less sincere. Ah, yes, the fool hath said, "There is no God," but I am wise. Therefore to him, who for his servants' food fattens the suckling, strews with fin and spawn my pool, and fills with splash of silver rain, I give among warm rocks and water weeds amphibious thanks. Thus far the Crocodile, reading his thesis theologi, and all admitted it extremely sound. End of section.
Section 19 of Wheels, the Fifth Cycle. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The Ambush by William Kean Seymour. Wild one, fleeing through the woods, your skin is rent with thorns, dark fear is in your eyes. A deer was caught by giant snakes with soft and gleaming hoods, they are winding round her heart until she dies. Wild one, quiet now your heart. The doe was white and beautiful, her eyes were fires of pain. 'Tis bitter, for the chase I willed is ended ere the start. By strong pursuing hounds I wished her slain. Wild one, break not from me so. The woods are fierce with hunger, and day has fled the skies, but in the house his tenderness and dreams. Oh God, I go from the terror of his hands and hooded eyes. End of section. Section 20 of Wheels, the Fifth Cycle. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Stars by William Kean Seymour. In the sharp splendor of a star, we know what timeless souls we are, and apprehend the uncharted seas, where throng our gilded argosies. Freighted with heavy bales of sense we sail, not knowing why, nor whence, nor whither, ever thrusting on against huge seas, aloof, alone. End of section. Section 21 of Wheels, the Fifth Cycle. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The Flame by William Kean Seymour. To John Flanagan. You shall take paint, and I take words, and both shall colour life with dream. Your thoughts shall glow, and mine, like birds, shall sing more proudly than they seem. Yet we shall never be appeased. This drouth and hunger of the soul is too essential to be eased with beauty lesser than the whole. Our 5 sweet senses shall not slake the fire that was before we came. Ah, struggle on for beauty's sake, and give your flaming heart to flame. End of section.
Section 22 of Wheels, the Fifth Cycle. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Sramozan by William Kean Seymour. For a Ballet. Sramozan sits dying. His slaves stand in silence. Nubians, Syrians, leashed to his nod. Death is on his dark brow with fierce, keen jewels.
Who has heard the treading of the cat-faced god? Has anyone heard?
Incense to the sun chinks wreathes. Balconied girls move fans in the gloom. ostrich, flamingo, and peacock feathers, in that great ivory ebony room.
Has anyone heard?
A silver-sprung fountain flowers in shadow, spurtles and sings from emerald heads of crested lizards.
Has anyone felt his shuddering wings?
Wearily, Sramozan watches a blue monkey from gold chain swinging, chattering her teeth, clenching her paw with loathing of the goldfish, swift and lustrous in the pool beneath. Heavily he sighs and looks to the still curtain where Srab stands, huge, with curved monstrous blade.
Bring me Sisha, while my eyes have vision, that I may pass the shadows unafraid.
The wings stirred then.
I heard his velvet treading.
Sramozan starts up with deep hungering eyes. Sisha, tinkling, is running past the eunuchs, spins on the throne steps, where he dies. Sisha, undulant with glittering allurements, mimes and quivers to pluck to murmurous strings. The orange pavement twirls to her rhythm. Death by the curtain furls his wings. Sramozan, from his throne of jade and silver, casts great sapphires and chrysolites down, whispering hoarsely praises of the sorceress Sisha, whirling slender and brown.
See how burningly he gazes upon her.
The dance wanes, she sways as a tall lily sways.
The wings rushed then.
His tired face is ashen. Death threads softly the whispering maze. The dance ends. How like a dying bird she flutters. Goldenly she falls and shivers and is still.
For the soul of Sramozan pray, O ye people. The years are sorrows the gods fulfill.
Srab moves swiftly. The chattering blue monkey squeals, and a girl screams.
Satyr, arise. Thy little feet shall go afar with Sramozan.
The sword smites hissing in a storm of sighs. End of section. Section 23 of Wheels, the Fifth Cycle. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Laughing Lions Will Come by Sacheverell Sitwell. The prophet from his desert cave listens to the sound of water, lapping with tongues the fringes of the sand. Young flowers open for the bees, a roadway for the yellow sun climbs from the hills into the fallow sea. The scented bells hold golden sound, and the strong lion drinks the salted waves, cooling his mane within the sudden foam. The bee skirts tremblingly the shining dew, looking for honey in the golden dells, while the lion shakes the loud hills again. This early morning there may lie some gold, forgotten when the light was fled. Today the great beams may shine on opened caves where run swift rivers, shooting their arrows at the swordless sea, and blind to the sun, whose shining armor shows in the sky among the clouds he charges, driving them across a wind-walled field into the shelter of the towering hills. Honey may be hiding in the waking flowers. The man in armor hides behind the gold. The strongest waves, far off, are snow. These are dangers to the daring robber, the armored impotence of man-made deity, and crowd thick, barking heads on the lion-like sand. Gathering honey in the rolling desert, such are the perils to a fasting prophet, dog-like men, and men-like gods. Many doors lie open into his cave, for lion springs flash of the surging sea, and dogs that bark to bar him from his palm. To leave his cave and walk on the burning sand He passes the sun that bridles his yellow mane, and the roaring crowd an ocean of clashing waves. Tightrope dancers run over the roofs and fall in the marketplace, raising a laugh. It looks like walking on the rainbow's bridge, among the clouds behind the windows. There below fly the flags of smoke, waving possession that the Lord's at home, and works, a creator, in his own fair garden, where trees spring as fountains, lift into the air, their branches steadied in the height with wings that quiver in the stream of wind, and by the cold are frozen as they drop. Before they foam again as fiery darts, piercing the soft breasts of the pool, they tremble above the water, bird-like, with flashing feathers. Is Zarathustra armoured that he goes, leaving his cave, down mountains, fording swift rivers, to attain the town? The tightrope dancers had turned back again, waving their wands to balance a sharp curve. They stagger as a child who learns his walk, using a crutch in place of human hand, holding his own high above the head to guide him on an easy, level path. Guitars are played by men upon high stilts, stepping over gardens to keep up the tune, because the dancers only move with music. With creaking leg and hollow tread, they walk among the houses, chase the rope, and whisper warning while they play more loud. Below, the cripples lean out from their corners, and a dwarf or two will strain his little stride to run like a child holding a strong kite. This is the magnet drawing every eye when Zarathustra comes behind the curtain of the gold horizon, walks into the town through the deserted gates. Judges are holding back the wheel of time, fitting the spokes to figures on a watch, as they follow the competitors on airy paths. He walks beneath an archway, hears his tread multiplied and echoed in this empty hall, and then is alone again on the empty street. Stepping out firm, he starts to sing, turns the corner, and is in the square, his song a loud river that now joins the sea. Who will he first step up to, take by the shoulder, to break down his stare? Will he stoop down to a dwarf and shout, ask him to run across the square, and beg the mayor to stop festivities a moment? Is it too dangerous to hold a stilt, shouting out loud into the noisy air, to attract attention from a wooden giant? If he holds a stilt and stops the music, down will tumble all the tightrope dancers, and the men who play the mandolines cannot stand still. Shout as loud as he possibly can, he will never drown the music and the roaring crowds. One course, one only, is there to his hand. Wonder and marvel are the joys today, and this is the course that he must tread. God goes on a cloud, but the dancers walk there, and the crowd shout louder than the singing of his angels. Thinking a moment, Zarathustra stopped, stroked his beard, and hesitated, till his mind lit up. Without a cry, without a word, he started running down the square, raced ever quicker till he reached a wall. No sooner touched it than he turned again, running ever faster than the way he came. Reached the starting point, turned once more, raising a dust to hide his face. The men on stilts looked down like birds who watch for prey in the glistening grass, and dropped the instruments from their hands. The dancers, when the music stopped, swayed on their ropes, and fell like stars, flashed through the air with trailing sparks, and opened on the ground their clumsy petals. The dwarfs and cripples raised themselves, came from their corners into dazzling sun, and ran among the crowd to start them running. Soon Zarathustra showed in front. Just behind were the men on stilts. After them the able-bodied ran, followed by cripples and the bounding dwarfs. Half of them were running from right to left, while Zarathustra showed from left to right. Soon he caught the laggards and the limping halt, and ran among their crutches by the jumping dwarfs. This time turning down a narrow street, he ran into a house and climbed the shaking stairs. Out from the window on a roof he stepped, while the people ran up stairways like a flood inside a well. Down a drain pipe on the ground again. He heard the tumbling ceilings and the roofs fall in. While the survivors took the road again, Zarathustra ran out from a gate once more, till he reached the burning sand, and fell back breathless, blind from the dust, and dead with running. Clouds of dust still rose from the town, blurred murmurs, and the tread of hundreds running.
I won attention by my ruse. Shouting was vain, and had I showed floating above them on a cloud, they would have guessed me lowered from a tower, treading the yielding clouds like a man through snow. So I had to run among them like a wind. But for all my running, they have never seen the stride of my footsteps, but thought themselves each in each other to contain the cause. My years of meditation in a cave gave more hope for another visit, but now that they run themselves around the town, nothing will stop them but themselves alone. If someone with young lungs blew out through a trumpet the last chance for man, it would be a feature in their entertainment. I must look at the sun who sinks to die, and pours his treasures to the sea to keep, guarding them with tempest and a change of tide, so that in sinking to the sunless caves, where they lie to light the darkness till he comes again, the poorest fisherman has golden oars, to row with over the echoing waves, suddenly shaking their yellow manes to sound new music to the gods below. And when the gold is taken from the oars, the music ceases, and the waves are mute, till a new wind whispers from the thirsty trees, and the fisherman can hoist his sail.
End of section.
Section 24 of Wheels, the Fifth Cycle. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Et in Arcadia Omnes by Sacheverell Sitwell. From The Bird Actors. The stars, but prophets call them sons of God, lay in the fresh field, and the cool wind trod, striding, across the bodies where they slept, and woke them to the glory that they kept all day in bondage until darkness came, when movement flowed as water, gold as flame. The gods now rise, and let the new light run, rippling its quick, strong life and substance spun from fluttering wings and fiery breasts of clouds, along their limbs, just risen from the shrouds of death-like slumber, till they play again. Blue hills, far island, watch them, and the plain. Above white clouds the stars come from their tent, on which today's dead light spills lustre, spent and feeble, after fiery beams and bars have burned the sea with madness, earth with wars, and made still waters mirror in their glass the gold-hung woods and gliding clouds that pass, dip their tall towers like pennons in the lake, and, hidden from the sun, their thirst they slake till, at the time the nightingales begin, the clouds have vanished, and the night is thin. Now at their settled stations in the sky the stars are still, or spread their wings to fly, are motionless, or moving with their gold through heavens wide as water, and as cold. Looking between sharp edges of the leaves, beneath black shadowed houses, and their eaves still shining in the evening rain, there show unfolding flowers that tremble as they grow, and several ships with glittering sails of glass swim the blue seas, or float beneath the mass of towering cliffs down which the gold men leap, cross the wide sands, run down the shelving steep, ride on the foam, and climb the golden ropes until the soft-breathed wind fulfil their hopes. Now that the sky is once more set with signs from balconies above the tree that shines with fan-like agitation of the wind, revolving its lush petals till they bind their spinning dance into a formless round. The people lean and listen to the sound of voices parting the dim green, and strings that, wave-like, beat their foam upon the wings flashing below the crystal fall of song, which, melting, drops in music on the throng. From bird throats, kissing the warm air, there drops the mingling of cool snow and flame through stops of flute-like tongues that gather fire from light to make their honey golden to our sight. The poorest even have their hour of pleasure when the daylight fails, and the more advanced young women play the piano, while the more advanced young men accompany them with song, and those who cannot play their part sit in the window. At a late hour all the voices stop, the day's perpetual sound is dead, so still now, that you think the singers must still be in that room, the women sleeping with the half-closed eyes of waxwork figures, and the men as plaster caryatides upholding the low roofs of lodging-houses on their sad, crushed heads. The next few hours are far the best in which to temper truth with a trite compromise. In more imaginative lands our instruments are still the strings that carry every trembling confidence through a half-open window, till, stepping to the water's edge, you see your own tall shadow in the clear windows of the water, with white-pointed mask abetting your new self disguised. And all the music of the air obeys the silver presence singing in the trees, and giving time its intervals of lucid silence, while the wind touches the taut strings of the sea, and the waterfalls of light drip through the leaves upon the dew-drenched grass. If such and such sit in the gamut of one's life within the same close box of yellow bricks under a mutual roof, bow from the windows if you walk beneath, and leash themselves to let you climb the stairs, is not a little latitude allowed for subtle insolence and half-veiled threats? Calling through the lattices of leaves at those wreathed windows where, flower-like, the gold light hangs, wise birds repeat, as echoes from cool caves, the words they're taught. A wall of cactus guards the virgin sound of piano scales ringing the changes in a small schoolroom, and on the black keys hammering with the hard beak of woodpeckers on a moss-grown tree. From all around, young ardent voices reiterate the aged sentiments, while a brave few try the spiral stairs, spinning like blown smoke to the glittering stars, half lost in the damp breath of clouds that tarnish the gilt edges of their song. Through the splintered stillness, sounds, like small animals, creep from their holes, and from 100 various heights, from terraces of all the shaking fields of leaves, the frail ladders on which our meaning climbs span the blue air until they touch the sodden ground. Music that on the stooping sails of wind, drifting, divides the distance, and can bind those it has chosen with a supple string, keeping them motionless to feel her wing, can negative the constant turn of time, and make long minutes shorter than the chime of waters bruising the white foam of waves, before whose rush the sea-gods seek their caves. Thus, at the music beating through a wall, tired limbs revive, and shadows seem the tall and flashing figures walking by a lake. Known faces, unknown bodies, slowly shake their dancing skeletons to normal flesh, and, walking in warm light within a mesh of memories that follow on the scent, the once again remembered wishes bent on embraces, or the easier art of flight, centre round persons crushed beneath the might of phrases blown like trumpets, but to fall deafened by loud sound, stifled by the pall of soaring wings too heavy for their weight. The music, dying, ceases, and the mate of every big ambition faints away. Gone are the dreams, the darkness lives, till day with staring light rehearses all the ills poured down on us each morning from the hills. But now, before ambition starts its reign and crowns itself within the sleeping brain, a fitting altar for a mocking rite, the hours arrive which offer to our sight, in place of sun, motes in a dancing air, the lively brilliance of crowds laid bare. And in the place of serenading winds, a surfeiting of subtle sound that binds the plumage of the trees and makes them still, while murmurs run as water from a hill down to the valleys where they form a flood, and rising, fill the veins of trees with blood, break the quiet spell, and run their fire along, thrilling the leaves until they shout the song of rolling river and of gliding cloud, more moving than the sea, and still more proud. Of boughs fanning the liquid air until the wind comes back and breathes into each quill, and then, quite suddenly, the birds begin throwing their brilliant spirals through the thin clear pavers to the vaster vaults of air. White caravans of clouds are listening there. The murmurs are soft whispering of men drinking the evening fall of coolness, when the dappled light gives intervals of shade arching the light-ribbed dark, with shadows made of moving shapes and lattices of green that trace their sudden sharpness where, between tall houses and the deep diapered woods, dim voices meet and mix their various moods. The flickering darkness covers as a cloak those hidden there, when certain changes broke the set calm, and lit the still air with fire, before whose flames the old and ill retire. The beating blood gives wings that flash and lift to bodies whose young signs of life they sift from evidence and symbol of decay, to feel the freshened splendour of new day. Rise from the ashes where you lay so long, stand up triumphant, resolute and strong. The cowering darkness is as oil to fire, intended but to multiply your ire. Your wings must carry you to cleave the cloud and take the treasure from its castle proud, building white bastions above the waves to hold the icy heart within its caves. For bribe, the gold upon the glittering trees lies there for you, as honey for the bees. The streams and running currents of the air is path and roadway for your footstep there, and walking then above the wide-stretched land, the flower scents reach their blossoms to your hand. And now to send a shiver through the leaves, and thrill with melody the gathered sheaves, touching the fields beyond the reach of sound, to light the gathered gold upon the ground. The clouds dissolve, and show a sea of glass, still islands, and the floating ships that pass. On earth once more, the music guides your feet, annihilating distance till you meet. The moment comes to don your first disguise, and posture it before the sightless eyes, vast imbecile mentality of those who cannot tell a thistle from a rose. This is for others, but for one, alone, the altered aspect and the change of tone, for one alone. Yet others, in these hours, show greater changes and more subtle powers. They glide in carriages past flashing green fans, and dropping curtains, liquid with sheen of waters, echoing every shaft of light that fills an avenue too long for sight, until the gold spoke fits the wheel on high, moving in majesty along the sky. From lakes that flash like mirrors or like swords, the echoes send back shuddering sounds and words, and multiply the moving shafts and wells, fashion new glory, and invent fresh spells to crack the glass of silence with the tongues that throw like fountains and have fire for lungs. They come by water with a white sail, blown like a taut cloud, like a gaudy shell shown through clear water on the pale plains of sand, as a city with carved towers on gold strand. Or float more gently, crossing a still world, using their oars as wings, with wide sails furled. Make the soft sound of feathers as they dip to wave the water back and press the lip. Floating still further on the troubled glass that shows its secrets and the mountain's mass, a wanton warmness breathes on them below the shaking smoothness, and white bodies show that ride the slight waves holding to the mains. Men on galloping horses down the plains. Clearer water shows the fine limbs that tempt the dwellers in wild places, rough, unkempt. If such there were who lived among these woods, crowding upon the bank, they'd fire their moods and carry a white body to the caves to catch the cataracting force of waves and gratify the unaccustomed touch. Soothe with cool snow of limbs the heat, of such blind, flower-like, followers who track the sun and know the causeways where his feet have run, treading through clear clouds the tree-tops. Below he dyes the leaves with brilliance to show the glittering windows and the shining roofs, pavilions that tremble as his hoofs sound in the orchards, where he stoops to hang gold apples on high trees, through which there rang laughter like dropping water, till, sweet tears, the rain showers fell to dissipate their fears. Small suffering and short-lived pain distil this elixir of happiness, and still among the drums and crystal gongs of rain voices are calling, and we know the rain is ended, and the brilliant fruit begin to grow to fullness and to paint their skin. Daring the danger and the treacherous shore, they swim above the never-plundered store of shadows, where the finished cup of sky contains the waters and the hills so high. They touch the trees that wave on the far bank, and shake the mirrored stillness of their rank. Green are the safest places in the grass to hide your comfort from the feet that pass, and little caves between the trees green dark give you their stillness, and no need to hark for prying voices, while near music rings to keep the people practising their wings. For while they tread the tightrope of the tune and walk on air through clouds, as if to prune these flowers which grow in clusters high above the leaf-marked waters, lying there to prove the strength of silver or the lure of gold, as night or day, with cowardly or bold appearance bribes the white flowers the waves, or with fierce countenance controls his slaves. Others can rest motionless, apart, until the moment for their play can start. In caverns, leaf-hung bowers, or grots they lie, and live their pastorals, before the shy pipes or piercing trumpets make this pretence no longer binding, and no more offence. From other windows other gods may lean, their suns mark space, with intervals of clean waterfalls of rippling light. Golden walls protecting proud gods, echo through their halls new signs and symbols acted in the air, unknown to us, but seen by clear eyes there. And from the windows each can watch his son leave heavens of sparkling brilliance, to shun the drifting gardens with sweet-breathing trees blown down the wide sky. For they choose the lees and sifted dregs of goodness, where they find sweet fruits of conquest and of loss combined. As soon as ever the deep woods are still, the hollow valley and the hanging hill murmur with liquid voices, till, in turn, the woods reply with fiery sounds that burn and cleanse the dim night, for the gods to reach trees rising like green cliffs above a beach. The carriages arrive, release their load beneath green arches, where the grass is mowed smooth as the sea, and through its depth as clear. The leaves, like men on cliffs, can gaze down sheer and watch, beneath the dancing boughs of waves, people leaving carriages like caves, step into the sunlight, for a moment blind. Dazed by the dropping splendour that they find, they stagger like men in the far-flung spray of the shivered waves on a stormy day. But the foam, falling like snow down the air, is dust in wide beams of the sun, whose hair gilds the blue zenith that he leaps along with lion-like limbs and loud voice so strong. End of section. Section 25 of Wheels, the Fifth Cycle. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. A Swiss Rhapsody by Sacheverell Sitwell. To the native, Miss Frida Widmer. Lausanne Station, 10:42. 9:42. Vevey Platform, 10:18. 9:18. Clockwork God who regulates this brew, think where your passengers have been. 3 different times, 3 separate stages, living, comatose, or dead, on far-off continents, or under clouds through showers of rain, in golden searchlights, pouring down to show the circle in the triangle, the rolling wheels of clocks set in the pyramids and spires. I see a town halfway between this station and the one we've left, and that yields yet another time, completing the set quadrature. Then this is north, east, south, and west. Before I've time to think again, taking a passport and a bag, I jump a barrier and run. I choose a bearing and a cab and drive along an avenue, 5 francs, desk, key, 3.48. And then I take my slippers and a dressing gown. I thought I'd interrupted Ezra bathing in this Swiss hotel. I looked again and saw it was an avalanche that fell. A mound of flesh, a gush of hair, a soul imprisoned in white tiles. But none the less I dreamed, I knew, and sure enough, my dreams came true. To the tune of the march from William Tell. I'm sure you will think that I say too much when I tell of the snow and a heat so fierce. So hot was the water when I turned the tap, I declare I forgot these were winter months. It was dark, but a new moon marked the skies. I'm sure that I saw it through the glass. I left the water and took a towel, and tried to find it, but the glass was thick. Slipped on the floor, missed the mat, and fell till at last I got up too late to know. They rang a bell, and I seized my clothes, for I knew that they served table d'hôte but once. I was right, and I lost. I was late. They were cruel. It was cold. Not enough. They refused, and I left. I went to the window, below lay the lake, and the lights of the town shone out through the night. I said to myself, shall I buy some milk, to drink with the chocolate that they sell? The shops were shut. It was past 10, judging by the average time. I was left hungry all that night, no use to grumble till the light. I went to bed and tried hard to sleep, but was prevented by a thirst. I dreamt of icebergs served with spoons, and felt a chagrin at their loss. So hungry, so weary, the gold sky signs sang of a sixpenny cure for the world. Just then I recovered, awoke, and remembered the fresh light flooded the curtained room. The shepherds sang songs on the hills, the valleys echoed crystal bells. They answered many morning prayers, and glided down the mountain rills. Editor's note. A letter from the native in appreciation of this poem will be found at the end of the book. End of section.
Section 26 of Wheels, the Fifth Cycle. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Profiteer Williamson Pursues Culture by John J. Adams. The orange and vermilion lights twinkle among the indigo trees. Williamson in violet tights converses with the blonde marquise. Troops of parrots madly squawk, streaming out of Africa.
Madame la Marquise, will you walk serenely into Asia?
Evidence of rumbling gongs, peacock silk and porcelain. Fat Jewesses' roaring songs surge and squeeze down Petticoat Lane. All the lanterns gaily swing, all the gongs and all the drums.
Madame, hear these maidens sing poignant lyrics of the slums. Shall we be grotesque? And why, madame, do you stint your mirth? In my country's service I earn my bulbousness and girth.
Tropical and sultry note in the night blared suddenly.
Parrot, your conspicuous coat is but protective mimicry. Shall we indeed await the dawn, or something else to talk about?
The blonde marquise, to hide a yawn, puts delicate lilac fingers out. Williamson grows old again, stares down at his sagging paunch. Dew is falling. A sudden pain pierces his rheumatic haunch. Rolling ships approaching port, coloured seamen wreathed in smiles, apes and birds of every sort brought from garish tropic isles. Coloured seamen leave the sea. Williamson becomes absurd.
Coloured men, oh, come to me. I will purchase many a bird.
Lanterns out and music dumb, and the rain descending fast.
Madame, if you will not come, I shall leave you to your past. Every one has gone to bed.
Would that I were every one.
There is nothing to be said.
There is nothing to be done.
End of section. Section 27 of Wheels, the Fifth Cycle. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Café Confidences by John J. Adams. Coffee, cigarettes, thick blue air, restless walls heaving themselves about in discreet anglified cubism. On the other side of the little table you were a smouldering spark and a thicket of black hair. And you talked, a farrago of considered cynicism. If coffee be the food of love, say on. There will be good men yet in Kensington. Singular young woman, how you rattle on. What do you think about when you are alone? Kensington bored you, the Slade formed you. Gloomy young woman of the cafe, what make you here? You should be picking buttercups in Devonshire. You were saying? Considered as an anodyne, brandy has qualities not found in wine. If I am an intellectual, then I am an intellectual. I can't help it, can I? Anyhow, what does it matter? The world will go round just the same. It is just a silly game. Life gets flatter and flatter. I contemplate it all with the vacant grin of an infant or an idiot. I shall soon be old. Shall I soak my sick soul in a tumbler of gin? My grandfather sold butter and cream in Tavistock Market. He fell in the road when he was drunk, and all the wheels of all the carts from Tavistock Market rolled gaily over him. Good old grandpapa! He had his spree each market day for centuries. Who would have thought he'd help to put on the market a thing like me? Sometimes I laugh about it quite a lot. End of section.
Section 28 of Wheels, the Fifth Cycle. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Imminence by Sherard Vines. It is not only savour that does arise from that field whither the gulls follow the plough. The colour is not but colour, also quick token of raw life, red-brown, a promise of yield, earth passionate, clamoring to be sown. Earth, salacious, genetrix of comical worms and larvae. Earth laughing at the people, she quiet, they vexed, litigating for her. Earth faithful nursing men with their milk of grain. Earth wanton and dangerous green of fat warts. Jewels, the flowers at her body's curves and hollows. At mating month, the grouped flowers, little yellow frilled mouths that smell of white wine. Earth austere, submitting to the frosty rods of January, defensive of her seed. Earth riddle maker under unlimited stars, the god's eyes pulling our souls down to her for her beauty, heart breaking, now darkly seen, now illumined, now gone. Earth whom cities do explain a little, conquer not. Godmother with gold and unexpected wells assuaging. Queen of green-haired tree spirits and the spirits of boulders, the robed in lichen of still pools where a wicked shadow is chained to the floor for punishment, of turfy downs. Hecate, Ephesian Dian, slim Adonis the chase, Priope, deliberate of seeming caprice, the brooding one, looking alway to show forth more life and godhead, and metamorphosis, giving the resurrection of the body. Earth pungent of unknown fury and desire in the green growing things, as much as beasts hunting, disposer who proves not of souls departed. End of section. Section 29 of Wheels, the Fifth Cycle. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The King's Daughter by Sherard Vines. Dodecasyllabics. The garments of the King's Daughter are of wrought gold. First, armor heavy, her cloak of yellow plaques. Each have different gravure. Kelladry, Chimeri, sphinxes joined in battle, lycanthropes in love. The eyes are jewels, red or green, scales of nacre, claws platinum inlaid, it is fringed with sapphires. Within her dress is one piece crushing the breasts to mountains marble white, with wandering veins like blue ore. It is harsh with the cruelty of 1,000 diamonds sewn in cusps, in volutes and arabesques. Harsher the intimate garments against her skin, woven in fine gold wire. Her skin is like orchid. More penitential than the horsehair shirt, as she moves, each point of gold chafes or pierces her white flesh. Yet proud she bows, suffering from her palanquin. The Ethiops who carry it with huge muscles suffer less. How gold and white against their black! But the little women, pandemic, whose one shift in blue with white stripes shows the generous freedom of round limbs stained apricot, and as downy and warm as one ripening at midday, feeling the torrid dust barefooted, jeer after her, "Long live Princess Sarcophagus, who for all her gold is charnel," a byword for the young men of the town. End of section. Section 30 of Wheels, the Fifth Cycle. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Love Lyric by Sherard Fines. I sometimes love you, as a convert on the bench of penitence weeping loves the stream of raw benediction that floods away his sin, shuddering in the delight of cleanness. At other times, as a capriped, chasing you in the sunshine along a lonely level beach where my hoof points send the brazen sand in brown-green fucus scattering, till I leap at you, grinning, fighting for breath, while you cling to the ground at first like a limpet, gasping in a way that suggests a giggle or a sob. Sometimes I want, with you, to hire little back rooms where the paper is torn downward like hangnails for an hour. On days when it is cold, and there is a great deal of business at the office, I don't love you at all. End of section. Section 31 of Wheels, the Fifth Cycle. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The Dahlia by Sherard Fines. Indolent in crimson plush, the dahlia blooms beside the wall, flaring soon after dawn on mist transmuted into motes of brass, like a mistress whom the years made terrible and stark and tall. She burns, loosening the slight but acrid smell of dahlias, or like a star that is a mouth with many lips in puckered lust, to drink the decadence of gold in foliage doomed to winter dust. End of section. Section 32 of Wheels, the Fifth Cycle. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The Soul's Defense by Sherard Fines. The soul has 4 gates to her hall, set to the 4 points cardinal. The first is the gate boreal, the second gate oriental, the third gate meridional, the fourth the gate occidental. Now when these strong winds do arise, which encompass all paradise, from the starless caves which see neither God nor his enemy, winds braggart, winds most terrible, that in a whining tune do tell of domed blue vaults so vast that he loses from his inventory many lost souls and thinks them free. Or obscene winds an entry seek with suppliant clamor, soft and thick. Then in fear and then in hate she shuts her steel, her silver gate, her gate of brass, her gate of gold, against these burning winds and cold, ghostly enemies without form, brewers of mischief in a storm, who gabble in a wicked tongue when all sky is overhung with dull clouds and yellow scars, sinister masters of the stars. Yet, if she be no prudent soul, but wanton, and conceived a fool, she will admit such as do think for nothing but their meat and drink, who would defile her house until, mocking her, they take their fill of her, consuming utterly more than her feeble harlotry, slake themselves with all, and leave nothing behind, nothing to grieve, nothing but what is wrecked and marred, the dead shadow, the broken shard, that messengers before the day mercifully will sweep away. End of section.
Section 33 of Wheels, the Fifth Cycle. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The Toilette of Myrrhine by Edith Sitwell. Siesta time is hot in hell. Down the glittering shutters fell, with a noise Arabian, like the rustling pearls that fan the eyes of Rajahs when they hide beyond the incense-flowing tide, their majesty, all lonely save for the hot Nubian sun, their slave. And like the lovely light gazelles walking by deep water wells, shadows past her mirrors fleet through bright trellises of heat. Through the shutters, fawning crept a barber zephyr, cringing stepped through the shutters, fallen like water, hiding hell's most lovely daughter. The sun, a ripened apricot, still made the flattened rooftops hot, and at her table preened and set, Myrrhine sits at her toilette. "Madam Myrrhine, if you please," fawning said the barber Breeze, "I will quaff as light as air that Arabian wind your hair." Never had the perfumed seas such bright grape black curls as these, fallen like rustling pearls that run, burnt by the hot Nubian sun. From each elephantine trunk the waterfalls rear, Myrrhine shrunk. But now the barber zephyr curls black cornucopias of pearls. Upon the dressing table heat is flaunting like a parakeet, and in the street, dust white and lean, two black apes bear her palanquin. Through the shutters see those apes, eyes like green and golden grapes. Their falsetto voices made a false simian serenade. The negress Dinah, through unheard shutters, like the sun's gold gourd, bears her powder puff, the breath of an angel, a swan's death. Never once Myrrhine replies to those apes with slanting eyes. She died 1,000 years ago. From dust her beauty ripened slow. But Franfreluche, her parrot, closes with the ballerina roses, pecks them. Dinah longs to snatch the night to make her beauty patch. End of section. Section 34 of Wheels, the Fifth Cycle. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. 8 more bucolic poems by Edith Sitwell. 1. Evening. Prince Absalom and Sir Rotherham Red rock on a rocking horse home to bed, with dreams like cherries ripening big beneath the frondage of each wig. In a flat field on the road to sleep, they ride together, a hunting sheep, that like the swan bright fountains seem. Their tails hang down as meek as a dream. Prince Absalom seems a long-fleeced bush, the heat's tabernacle, in the hush and the glamour of eve, when buds the dew, into bright tales that never come true. And as he passes a cherry tree, caught by his long hair, bound is he, while all his gold fleece flows like water into the lap of Sir Rotherham's daughter. Come then, and sit upon the grass, with cherries to pelt you as bright as glass, vermilion bells that sound as clear as the bright swans whose sighing you hear, when they float to their crystal death of water, scarcely plumed by the breath of air, so clear in the round leaves they look, this crystal sound scarce grieves, as they pelt down like tears fallen bright from music or some deep delight. The gardener cut off his beard of bast, and tied up the fountain tree, made it fast, and bound it together till who can see which is Prince Absalom, which is the tree? Only his gold fleece flows like water into the lap of Sir Rotherham's daughter. Sir Rotherham red gathers bags of gold instead of the cherries, ruddy and cold. 2. The 5 Musicians, to Osbert. The blue-leaved fig trees swell with laughter, gold fissures split the ripe fruits after, and like a gold-barred tiger shade leaps in the darkness that they made. The long-ribbed leaves shed light that dapples Silenus like a ton of apples. Gold-freckled, fruit-shaped faces stare at nymphs with bodies white as air. The ancient house rocked emptily. Horned brothers creep inside and see through my tall windows. The abode of noise is on the dusty road. They creep, strange hands are on the hasp. Silenus sleepy as a wasp, amid the fruit-ripe heat as in an apricot or nectarine, replies, the dust is wise and old, for glistening fruits and Ophir's gold are gathered there to wake again in our flesh like a tune's refrain. The 5 musicians with their bray shatter the fruit-ripe heat of day. Their faces wrinkled, kind and old, are masked by the hot sun with gold. Like fountains of blue water gush their beards, strange feathered birds that hush their song move not so proud as these, smiles floating, ageless courtesies. They stand upon the dust outside, their tunes like drops of water died. Yet still we hear their slow refrain, King Pharaoh, gay lad, come again. Miss Nettybun, beneath the tree, perceives that it is time for tea, and takes the child, a muslined moon, through the lustrous leaves of afternoon. And tea time comes with strawberry jam, yet where, oh where is she? On that music, floating, gone to China and to Babylon. Never again she'll go to bed in the house of Sir Rotherham Red. 3. King Cophetua and the Beggar Maid, to Alan Porter. The 5-pointed crude pink tinsel star laughed loudly at King Cophetua. Across the plain, as black as mind, and limitless, it laughed unkind to see him whitened like a clown, with the moon's flower come in a golden crown. The moon shone softer than a peach upon the round leaves in its reach. The dark air sparkled like a sea. The beggar maid leaned out through a tree and sighed, that pink flower spike full of honey. Oh, for love, ragged as time, with no money. Then through the black night, the gardener's boy, as sunburnt as hay, came whispering, Troy, long ago was as sweet as the honey chimes in the flower bells, jingling into rhymes. And oh, my heart's sweet as a honey hive, because of a wandering maid, and I live but to tend the pale flower bells of the skies, that shall drop down their dew on her sleeping eyes. 4. Clown Argub's Song. Clown Argub, the honey bee, counted his money, see, in the bandstand in hell, buzzing. The tunes that fell raise up glass houses round Serchaude's forcing ground, lest bald heads harden in hell's kitchen garden. Poet and pedagogue bump their bald heads agog, melon and marrow and cucumber narrow. Next day comes Proserpine, parasol raised, and "See, ma'am," says the gardener, "these thoughts are as thick as peas." So sighed the clown, singing buzz and still clinging to no horizontal bars, but the pink freezing stars. 5. Fleecing Time. Queen Venus, like a bunch of roses, fat and pink, that splashed dew closes, underneath dark mulberry trees, wandered with the fair-haired breeze. Among the dark leaves' preening wings sit golden birds of light. Each sings, "Will you accept the blue muslin?" as they peck the blackamoor mulberry skin. Then came a sheep like a sparkling cloud. "Oh, ma'am, please, ma'am, sleek me proud. Come fleece and comb my golden wool, and do not mind, ma'am, if you pull." Her flocks came thick as the mulberries that grow on the dark, clear mulberry trees, as thick as the daisies in the sky. Prince Paris, Adonis, as each passed by, she cried, "Come feed on buds as cold as my fleece lamb-tailed river's gold. And you shall dance like each golden bird of light that sings in dark trees unheard. And you shall skip like my lamb-tailed river in my buttercup fields forever." The Lady Venus, with hair thick as wool, cried, "Come and be fleeced, each sheepish fool." 6. The Higher Sensualism. Queen Circe, the farmer's wife at the fair, met 3 sailor men stumping there, who came from the parrot-plumed sea, yo-ho, and each his own trumpet began to blow. "We come," said they, "from the Indian seas, all bright as a parrot's feathers, and these break on gold sands of the perfumed isles, where the fruit is soft as a siren's smiles, and the sun is as black as a Nubian. We have singed the beard of the King of Spain." Then we wandered once more on the South Sea strand, where the icebergs seem heavenly mansions fanned by the softest winds from the groves of spice, and the angels, like birds of paradise, flit. There we caught this queer-plumaged boy, an angel he calls himself, for a toy. The angel sighed, "Please, ma'am, if you'll spare me a trumpet, the angels will come to the fair. For even an angel must have his fling, and ride on the roundabout in the swing." She gave him a trumpet, but never a blare reached the angels from Midsummer Fair, though he played "Will you hear a Spanish lady?" and "Jack the Sailor," "Sweet Nelly," "Tree Shady." For only the gay hosannas of flowers sound loud as brass bands in those heavenly bowers. Queen Circe, the farmer's wife, said, "I will buy your plumaged coat for my pig to try. Then with angels he'll go a-dancing hence from sensuality into sense." The fair's tunes like cherries and apricots ripened. The angels danced from their green grots. Their hair was curled like the fruit on the trees. Rigodon, saraband, dance they these. And the pig points his toe, and he curves his wings. The music starts, and away he flings, dancing with angels all in a round, hornpipe and rigodon on the fair's ground. 7. Falsetto Song. Between the hairy leaves trills dew, all tasting of fresh green anew, and baskets of ripe fruit in air. The bird songs seem suspended where, like any feathered shrieking biped, or creaking water brightly striped, I stand and let my laughter flare beneath my waspish gilded hair. My tame ass's tee-hee-hee mimics the striped zebra sea, as it munches all the land, the real ground whereon we stand. No eagle was it, but a hen pecked Prometheus' fireheart when, counting chicks before they hatched, the farmer's gay wife left unlatched the door of the crazy hen coop laughter, never closing ever after. 8. The Fat Woman. The velvet black trees just behind have cast no shadow on my mind. My whirring gilt hair, clear as flutes, seems cornucopias of fruits. That negroid satyr, the hot wind, with his long fingers cannot find his way among my chins, whose shapes seem bunches of hot glowing grapes. The roses blaze like scarlet fire, the ivy leaves are black as ire, and bird songs are suspended there, like coloured hoops upon the air, through which reverberate the lights in splintered glassy stalactites, those lights that sting me waspishly, as by the gentian-coloured sea I amble waves of coloured flesh fantastically curled afresh. I amble past, I muse and see the placid world's rotundity made in my image fat and round and matronly. The shy rebound of space from contact seems to me the most sincere of flattery, a virtuous vacancy that thieves all colour from the world that lives, yields like my mind, where naught can make the least impression it will take. End of section.
Section 35 of Wheels, the 5th cycle. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Press Cuttings. The Saturday Review. The vanguard of British poetry. They are a portent. The Nation. Harpies like nightingales, and nightingales like harpies, chirping balefully upon the walls of old Babylon. The Lancet. We are sorry about the appendix. Anything to give pain. Pall Mall Gazette. Conceived in morbid eccentricity and executed in fierce, factitious gloom. Morning Post. We have no doubt whatever that, 50 years hence, the publication of Wheels will be remembered as a notable event in the inner history of English literature. Weekly Dispatch. Former literary regime. The publication of Wheels is regarded by all right-minded people as more a society event than a literary one. Editor's note. My dear sir, if you lived in Bayswater, as I do, you would realise how perfectly charming you have been. R.I.P. Topsy Jones, who died defending a common cause. Editor's note. Very. 1919. Your memory is like a well-loved book, wherein we go continually to look. Editor's note. The memorial verse is from the lady's published translations, and was once, alas, poor youth, Albert Samin. A Tragedy of Reaction. It was a super-poet of the neo-Georgian kind, whose fantasies transcended the simple bourgeois mind, and by their frank transgression of all the ancient rules, were not exactly suited for use in infant schools. But, holding that no rebel should shrink from fratricide, his gifted brother Georgians he suddenly defied, and in a manifesto, extremely clear and terse, announced his firm intention of giving up free verse. The range of his reaction may readily be guessed, when I mention that for Browning his devotion he confessed, enthroned above the Sitwells the artless muse of Bab, and said that Marinetti was not as good as Crabbe. At first the manifesto was treated as a joke, a boyish ebullition that soon would end in smoke. But when he took to writing in strict and fluent rhyme, his family decided to extirpate the crime. 2 scientific doctors declared he was insane, but likely, under treatment, his reason to regain. So now he's in an asylum where he listens at his meals to a gramophone recital of the choicest bits from Wheels. End of section. Section 36 of Wheels, the 5th cycle. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Bibliography. Aldous Huxley, The Burning Wheel, published by B. H. Blackwell. Without any doubt an original poet. The Nation. The Defeat of Youth, published by B. H. Blackwell. The best thing in Mr. Huxley's new volume is The Defeat of Youth. The later poems in the book belong to his subjective eccentric period wherein lies are notable epigrammatists. The Nation. Mr. Huxley is a poet whom it is as difficult to praise outright as it is to overlook him altogether. If Mr. Huxley could abandon his search for the rarer emotions for rareness' sake, and if he could be a little less ingenious all round, he would be a better poet. Land and Water. Mr. Huxley's great merit is that he does not attempt to conceal his sophistication. His great defect is that the degree of his sophistication is rather overwhelming. His verse is truly elegant. His rhythms are good. It is incisely phrased. It is devoid of clichés. It is often ironically witty, and often originally and agreeably coloured. It would be possible to demonstrate his power to write beautifully and well from almost any page in his volume. The New Statesman. Mr. Huxley is a poet who focuses his mind without stint into verse, a process which has its dangers, but his mind is so richly stored and so quickly receptive that the result never lacks interest. It is clear that any idea or emotion that comes to him has the best possible chance of surviving beautifully. The Times. Leader, just published. Chatto and Windus. Limbo, just published. Chatto and Windus. Sherard Vines, The Two Worlds, published by B. H. Blackwell. An extremely vivid and charming poet. The Nation. The Kaleidoscope, just published. William Kean Seymour, Sword and Flute. Osbert Sitwell, Argonaut and Juggernaut, Chatto and Windus. Old ways and new ways of writing poetry are effectively exemplified in Mr. Sitwell's interesting and accomplished, if not seldom tantalising, volume. The Scotsman. It is the fashion to slang our young poets, but the answer to their critics, which they make in such volumes as Argonaut and Juggernaut, and Mr. Sassoon's war poems, seems to me a pretty satisfying one. They were the first Englishmen of letters to exhibit the war in the dress in which generations of their countrymen will assuredly see it. They, and they alone, subduing their artist's sense to this debt of service to humanity, but giving it also its due vesture of grace and freedom in expressing to unthinking, unhearing England what it meant. The Nation. Wayfarer. Irony has been an art lost this long while to English letters. Mr. Sitwell has found it, has established it, has triumphed in a medium of all the most difficult to the English sense. He is elegant, suave, restrained, and mighty. Iron, cold iron, is master of men all. He has avoided the easy mistake of making it hot and soft. Daily Herald. Mr. Osbert Sitwell has a rich and fantastic imagination. The section called The Phoenix Feasters is brimful of beauty and brightness. Miss Rose Macaulay in the Daily News. In all the volume there is not a poem but counts because of its intellectual and emotional content. Birmingham Post. Captain Sitwell, in his combative moods, is one of the swiftest pursuers of Mrs. Grundy. Times Literary Supplement. There is a big hatred in this young man for facts which many respectable folks accept either with a half-hidden eagerness or with a shrug of the shoulders. He is a wit and a scourge and a genuine poet. He can make your blood curdle, unless you have made too much money out of the war, with his terrible picture of the modern Abraham, a piece of grim satire, suitably dedicated to his friend and fellow poet Siegfried Sassoon. Bystander. Sacheverell Sitwell, The People's Palace, published by B. H. Blackwell. This is the most advanced poetry we have had so far, advanced in that it is founded on a theory probably new to this country. Robert Nichols in The New Witness. We have attributed more to Mr. Sitwell than to any poet of quite his generation. We require of him only 10 years of toil. T. S. Eliot in The Egoist. The Mayor of Mercia is almost unreadable for dullness. Jones, Miss Topsy, in A, or The Common Cause. The word dire shows real observation and imagination. It illuminates. It is the word one might have thought of and didn't. Jones, Miss Topsy, in A, or The Common Cause. Editor's note. Hoity-toity, Topsy Jones. Our Stylists. The People's Palace purports to be a collection of verse by Sacheverell Sitwell. Its sheer inanity is beyond description. The audacity of wasting precious paper, to say nothing of printing ink, on such unadulterated drivel sick, one's breath away. The World. Edith Sitwell, Clowns' Houses, published by B. H. Blackwell. Miss Sitwell's verses may remind some people of the Italian comedy seen through a distorting mirror. The Italian comedy is a little formula that will contain a very large bulk of life, and Miss Sitwell's performing matter has mind behind it. We convolute and spiralise, but somebody has hold of the strings. Her method has, to a certain extent, been a cockshy for the trumpery reviewer, but inasmuch as she does not use it either perversely or to exploit her personality, we rather admire her courage than deprecate the chosen vessel of its wrath. The Nation. If, by chance, which is not so improbable as appears, Miss Sitwell's teapot reminded her first of the Tower of London and then of Joan of Arc, she would say so without hesitation or consistency. For the most part, we believe that she is trying her best to be honest with her own conceptions, and that being so, she is of course perfectly right not to care whether they appear outlandish. Times Literary Supplement. She is a poet for whose poetry the taste must emphatically be acquired. What seemed like imaginative madness shows on acquaintance much method. The Oxford Chronicle. Miss Sitwell can write fête gallant and perverted nursery rhymes as well as any poet alive. New Statesman. Miss Sitwell is best and most herself when she dances a graceful, grotesque pas seul of absurdities, using rhyme, as Monsieur Duhamel puts it, pour taper du talon les pas d'une petite danse qui sont commodes, and pour mettre des talons rouges dans une fête galante. The Saturday Westminster Gazette. Her vision and her technique are so individual as to be inimitable. Her manner of expression is admirably suited to herself. It is perhaps suited to nobody else. She observes the surfaces of things not only with abnormal clearness, but with delight. And the youth, or rather the childlikeness of her vision, makes us see them more clearly also, or recalls our own bygone vision of them again. Her satire is the satire of a very young person or a fairy. The New Age. Edith Sitwell, The Wooden Pegasus, published by B. H. Blackwell. Miss Sitwell's perversity, ceasing to be ethical, has passed into its aesthetic perfection. She is indeed quite a virtuoso. Times Literary Supplement. Reality takes on the strange nightmarish qualities of hallucination. Miss Sitwell's method is limited in scope, but within its limitations can produce interesting and often fantastically beautiful results. We see her work at its best and most characteristic, the hallucinated vision, the precise, glassily bright technique, the curiously profound wit, in the 15 bucolic poems. Letter from the Native to the editor of Wheels re the Swiss Rhapsody. 12 Herzogstrasse, Bern. Dear Miss Edith, just I received a lovely poem from Mr. Sacheverell about Switzerland when he was travelling from Italy through Saint-Plon Genève. Really, I am enjoying very much to read this poem where I am native from this country. since, like Schiller, the great poet from Germany, when he was travelling in the wonderful lake from Lucerne, and write this work from Wilhelm Tell, I should be very pleased when to have some more poem from Mr. Osbert Sitwell about Switzerland. I am remain your sincerely, Frieda Widmer. Note: the editor of Wheels will shortly answer all the attacks in a pamphlet to be published separately. The attackers are properly in for it. End of section. End of Wheels, the Fifth Cycle. Recording by Nemo, Eva Davis, Newgatenovelist, and Algy Pug.